Okay, I've hiked quite a ways today. I snuck into a place early this morning for first light where I've been working this zone, I've been working probably about a 1.5 square chunk of big mature timber with a little fringe area on it. And I love the game. It's a game. It's like the playoffs, you know, it's that one time of the season, it's the end of the season, it's that time to shine and you're trying your hardest, and I just love the game. I love to know that there's a big old past his prime ready to go buck, and I love to try to figure out where he is and single him out, and that's what I'm doing. And of course yesterday, about straight down that shot there, probably about 800 yards from there now, and I changed my mind. I was going to sit there yesterday. I was putting all the sign together, putting all the clues together, left a camera there because I felt this is probably the intersection of the zone. And I was going to wait there yesterday, which would have put me there about 2:30, and I would have sat there until dark. And of course the monster buck walked. I changed my mind at the last minute, and the monster old guy walked right by there at 10 after 3. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, I know a lot of you people out there aren't into hunting, have no interest in it, and I know there's a lot of guys and gals out there who are into it. So just for your curiosity of what's running around this forest, I'm going to show you a few pictures of what's running around here. It's something else, I'll tell you what. It makes it a lot of fun. It gives you lots of encouragement to keep going, although you don't see anything normally, right? Let's see if I can find these photos. A lot of you whitetail fanatics are gonna freak out when you see this. So to go through my other phone here, but for all you whitetail fanatics, you can see what's running around in these woods. Check this out. Try this. It's a little much, isn't it? That's quite the buck right there. And here's another look at him there. I do that. So there's no shortage of fun and excitement going on here if you're into this, obviously. Here's another one. I gotta brighten that up. I don't know if this will work or not. This is another big fat 300 and some odd pound northern Alberta, northern whitetail deer. And I'll show you one more. I know you non-hunters. It's not of interest to you, but there's some people that are now. Check this one. This is the one that walked by where I was supposed to be sitting yesterday. Can you see that? Look at that thing. Just after 3 o'clock. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. It's a lot of fun. And I'm really feeling bad for a lot of people down south who've lost their homes, lost everything from those floodings. I haven't been down there yet. I couldn't imagine. If you watch the news, it is unbelievable, the carnage. From basically the ocean fell out of the sky and washed everything away in southern BC, southwestern BC. It's amazing. I got a couple of plans up my sleeve on how I might be able to get home in a few days, but until then I'll keep doing this, and I'll keep doing this. I forgot my readers, so let's see if I can pull this off. If not, I'll have to do this a little later on then. I don't know why I can't make the text bigger, but let's see if I can do this. Hello, Steve. You can use my name. It's Aaron from North Carolina. Been watching your channel before you started the Circle of Truth. I'm gonna try to make this short. Quick background on me. I grew up in the woods. My dad's an avid outdoorsman, and so from the time I could walk, I've been hunting and fishing. My first experience was in 2002, fall deer season, and I was 16. My brother and I would hunt a large tract of land my aunt owned. It's mostly a large field surrounded by acres of woods and swamp. One afternoon after school in November, our mom dropped us off and walked down a dirt road to that field that went downhill and hooked back to the right. Deer were always feeding on the beans in the bottom, so we walked slowly down the edge of the tree line to the swamp and turned around. No deer that day, so I decided we'd walk out to the road and wait to be picked up. Upon cresting the hill and rounding the bend, I froze and told my brother to stop. There, about 20 yards from the wood line in the field, was a man-shaped creature covered in reddish-brown hair making its way to the trees. I got that instant dread/fear, so I grabbed my brother and we hid in an old tobacco barn on the edge of those woods. We had a .243 and a 20-gauge 870. I told him to shoot anything that came in the door of that barn while I looked out the vent hole in the foundation. After 15 minutes, I couldn't see anything, and we didn't hear anything either. So I said, we need to get out to the main road before dark. We got out fast, and our mom was waiting to pick us up at the road. I told her what we saw and even drew a picture of it. There was an old shack it walked by when I saw it on the edge of the field that was an old abandoned farm in the early 1900s. A few months later, I went back on my ATV and measured the roof of that shack at a little over 7 feet tall. The thing we saw was easily 1.5 feet taller than it. I have more stories for later, trying to keep this short. Maybe a piece to someone's puzzle. Sincerely, thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Steve. Sincerely, Aaron. Sorry about that. Could you imagine being a kid and seeing one of those things all by yourself and hiding in an old shack in the woods? And then you got to roll the dice on when it's safe to go out of the shack. Like, seriously, put yourself there, all right? It's not just a story. It's not a story for your entertainment. This is actually what somebody experienced. Now, just take a minute out and be a child and go and hide in that shack and hide from that thing which is outside that old shack and nobody's there, no cell phones, nobody to help you. And then try to figure out when it's safe to walk out of that shack. God, could you imagine that stress? I guess part of my problem is I always put myself there with everyone and picture what they went through. I guess I went through something similar, but a couple times, but I don't envy anybody. And it is bullshit that people have got to go through this terror before being, without being informed. Honestly informed, you know? It's not fair. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. Let's see if I can figure out how to lighten the background of that thing. Here we go. Let's see what we got. My childhood. Hi, Steve John here again. I will leave the decision to share this up to you. I don't care who hears it or whether or not they believe it. It can be confirmed by anyone that wishes to look into. My father was a spook that was working in the United States Air Force. He had a drop team that traveled all over the world, putting out fires, as he called it. Usually he would bring us kids something back from everywhere he was dropped off on his missions. I got things from Cambodia, Russia, Uzbekistan, North Vietnam, and Poland back in the 60s and 70s. And according to our government, we, the USA, were never in those countries during that time, as it was right at the height of the Cold War. I remember bomb drills we had to learn in first grade that taught us to hide under our desks in case of nuclear attack. Even as a child, I wondered just exactly how that desk was going to protect me from a nuclear blast. But there you have it. Anyway, they would show up in a Jeep and say, "Mr. Bowen, it's time to go." And my dad would get in the vehicle and he was gone. We never knew how long that would be. And during the Vietnam era, he was MIA, considered dead for 9 months. That was not a fun experience. He was emaciated and wounded and looked like a walking skeleton when he finally got home. I asked him when I was 22 what happened, that they thought he was dead that time, and all he would say was he had been invited to be someone's guest for a bit. I felt so helpless watching my mom cry for weeks, and as not knowing what was coming next, hard reality of life for all our military families here and in Canada. Our troops deserve much more than they are given for their service. My father took 3 bullets, shrapnel to the throat, which made it impossible for him to yell at us, but he survived, and that was what mattered to us kids when he finally came home. He saw Area 51 and Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson, and when I asked him what he really saw, he simply answered, "There are things there that did not come from this reality." And that was all he would ever say. He taught us boys how to do things like make man traps, he called them, out of things that could be found in any wild environment, and had set them so that they would do the most damage. He taught us how to make explosive from everyday household chemicals, and yes, I did try them out to see if they worked. I knew how to set and ignite dynamite at the age of 13, and what is required to set off homemade C4 explosives, and how to set the charges for the most efficiency for whatever style of building or wall you're trying to implode. You know, things every teenager should know, LOL. I asked him in later years, "Pops, why on earth would you teach us to do things like that?" He just said, "They may come a day when you will need them, and I want you to prepare for that day." I wondered many, many times just exactly what he truly knew. I found it very interesting that he could go places and see things our president was even denied. Things like the Blue Room, allegedly in Hangar 18 and Area 51, that more than one president has been denied access to see. Made me go, on many occasions. I can tell you it was a very, very bad idea to surprise him or wake him by grabbing any part of his body. We were taught to use the broom handle and to be ready to run depending on how we woke up. Reflexes like a cat, and I mean fast. I saw him knock a cup of coffee off the corner of our dining room table and catch the cup and the coffee before it hit the floor. Put the coffee back on the table and didn't even bat an eye. Don't ask me how he did it because I have no frickin' clue. According to him, you had to be taught to slow down time to be able to do things like that. I tried to get a copy of his service record and was finally told to let it go, or there would be dire consequences if I kept asking. His records are sealed as a matter of national security. It was the only answer I ever got that was off the record, and what the colonel told me gave us an explanation. In about 68 or 69, I got attacked by a German Shepherd in Wichita Falls, Texas, and had to get stitches put on my face back together, and had to take rabies shots as they could not find the dog after the incident. That was not fun. 12 shots around your belly button, 1 shot per day for 12 days. It sucked. I could never figure out where the dog came from because he lived in base housing at Shepherd Field. And there should have been nowhere for the dog to go after the attack. I wondered if one of the attack dogs trained for combat had gotten loose, and that was why they claimed they could not locate it. My dad took me to get those shots, and he would use a gate. He would use a gate that took us down the flight line at the base every time he took me because he could get across the base much faster that way. One morning as we drove there was this huge, awesome-looking black plane sitting on the apron, and I asked Dad, "What is that plane?" He glanced over and said, "What plane?" I said, "That big black one right there." He looked over again and said, "Son, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see anything." I almost started crying because I thought my dad was going blind. I didn't say anything about it, but when the story broke on the SR-71 Blackbird and a picture of that plane popped up on TV, I jumped up and looked at him, and he just grinned at me and said, "Yes, JGB, that is what you saw." I asked him, "Why in the heck did you deny it then?" And he just said, "Son, it was classified. If I had acknowledged, I would have had to kill you." Thing is, I think he meant it. When he ran our equipment company, he said, "I used to go to the breakfast every Saturday morning, just the two of us, and one Saturday I showed up about 45 minutes early because I'd been called out that morning for a service call on a crane with a jump cable on the lift spool." Sorry, it's getting tough. The sun's making a glare. Man, this is tough. when I walked in the restaurant, to my surprise, my father was sitting between two MPs and a general sitting across from him. And when I approached the table, he just looked up and said, "Hi, son, can you give me a few minutes here?" I said, "Sure." I went and sat down in the lobby area, and on the way out, the general shook my hand and said, "Thank you." And he and the MPs got in a government SUV and left. I sat down with Dad and asked, "What the heck was that about? Why are you between two MPs?" He just said, they were just asking questions." I asked, "What kind of questions? And what if you got them wrong?" He said, "I got them wrong, I would not be sitting here," and changed the subject. I asked him how often this happens, and he said about once a month. Let's eat. We never discussed it again. I watched my dad die from Agent Orange poisoning, and I have to tell you, it's some form of cancer because it stripped the life out of him cruelly and slowly, just a little every day. It sucked. He died October 19th, 2000. I still miss him every day. He used to watch the news and would just laugh and laugh at it every day. I asked him what was so funny, and he said it just amuses him how much they are desperate to keep people from knowing even a tenth of the truth about anything. I asked what he meant, and he said, "Son, you will never know any more than they want you to know, no matter what source you go to, because if they told you the truth, the world would collapse from fear." That stuck with me since that day. I take every bit of information I hear from any source that is public information with a grain of salt. Steve, you have it right. Unless we as a people worldwide regain our own thought patterns and find our voice, the status quo is going to remain the status quo. That is a simple truth. I just want you to understand that because of how I was raised. I do not care what the government tells me is or isn't the truth. I want to know myself. From the day of that encounter in Washington State, from the day of that first encounter in Washington State, when that thing threw that rock with so much force that it sheared off that aspen tree the way it did, I've wanted to know what the heck these things. I played all sorts of sports in high school, was a catcher on our baseball team for 4 years. If you can throw a fastball that is over 90 miles per hour, I can hear it coming about 10 feet away. I could hear the speed of that rock from at least 90 feet from me, and as I said, that thing had wanted us dead. You would never have gotten that email because I would not have been here to write it. Never in all my years hunting have I seen anything that can move with the speed, agility, and strength that thing did. What amazed me was that 5 rounds out of my buddy's pistol did not scare the beast, not even a tiny bit. It was not until we crossed out of the branch of the canyon that were clearly on our way out of the area that it finally relented on screaming at us and growling that low subharmonic growl that just shook your insides. Yes, I made up that word, skrelling. They don't really yell and don't really screech. They just kind of combine the two at low range, and you can't really hear, and the high range just pierces your core to the bone. I feel sorry for the people that truly want to see one of these things, because even knowing what they know from your channel, they will not be prepared for what it's going to do to their psyche when they finally do, or if they finally do. I've been the same person I have never been the same person from the day I saw one. From the day I saw my first one, and I, like many others, feel like since that first encounter, I've been marked by them somehow. I'm sorry for the length of this, but I felt a little background was in order for how I got to where I am at this point. When I told my dad that experience, he told me it would probably be the best if I never talked about it openly with anyone but him or my buddy, as it would not bode well for me if I made it publicly known what I'd experienced. I agree with you 100%. It's time I carried that with me for all the... I agree with you 100%. It's time. I carried that with me for all those years, and it affected my decision I made, every decision I made, not only in the wilds, but in my everyday life, because I had a million questions I could not ask safely. Not an easy burden to carry. I cannot stress enough to you what a relief it's been on my mind and heart to be able to finally tell my story with no fear of retribution involved. Such a relief. Carry on with the round table and knowledge, my friend, because only through people willing to take the risks you're taking, we will never find the truth, not only for ourselves, but for our children and their children's children. Rock on with your bad self, bro. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you do for us. Watch your six out there, and good hunting, Steve. You take care now. Here, John. John, thanks for that email, man. That must have been something else, having a father who was involved in all that shit and having to tiptoe around all the details and never ask, wondering if he's not even going to come home at times. What a shitty death to witness him whittling away like that. That was a bit of a struggle trying to read without the readers, man, especially with the snow right here and then that sun blazing behind me. I hope you guys heard me okay. I'm checking the volume on my phone, listening to the actual YouTube video, and it comes in loud and clear on my phone. So, Sarah was saying, there's been a handful of comments that people said they can't really hear the videos, but I don't know why, because it's loud and clear when I log on to YouTube and listen to myself, but whatever. But anyway, I wonder how much time I managed to sit here and do that for. It's killing me not just to go run around the forest, but you can't screw it up, so I'm trying to wait and see if that big guy, one of those big bucks, is gonna come out and go on the prowl. And in the meantime, I'm trying to figure out a way to get home, and I know one route. It's a nasty logging road, old road. It couldn't even be called a logging road, and some butthole labeled that route as a route, a highway route, on the internet. And sure enough, some brain-dead transport truck driver actually tried to take it. And the word in the street is yesterday he tried to take it where you can barely get your pickup through in a 4x4. And he got the transport truck wedged and stuck and blocked the whole thing. So I'm going to look into that thoroughly this evening, see what the deal is. And it's the only way I could try to figure out how I can get home through the mountains and then come out to the coast. And I don't know if that truck's still blocking it. I'll pay the off-road tow truck to come and slide the thing off the road and get it out of the way. I'm not kidding you. It's a chunk of nasty ass. It's like a glorified quad trail. But if you drive carefully, you can get your 4x4 pickup through it. And I just cannot believe somebody would be that stupid to actually think they're going to take a transport truck off the highway and take that route as an option. Absolutely. And you're never going to turn around. You can barely turn a pickup truck around on that old road at best of times. So I don't know how they're going to get that thing out of there. I got some friends that don't live too far away from there. I'll get a hold of them and see if they can find out if it's passable, if it's going to be passable. And that might be my only way home without leaving everything and jumping on a chartered plane or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We got lots of incentive to keep running around the forest here. It keeps my mind healthy and my body strong. I feel it's good. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm hiking all day long till dark. And I like feeling the strength building up. I like the feeling of it. It's good to feel strong. But anyway, here I go. Enough babbling. We'll keep this ball rolling, and I will try to do another one of these tomorrow. Hope everybody's safe out there.